All right, I guess we will begin. Again, thank you everyone for joining this training, which is meant for the Yaskawa channel, the industrial sales channel. And again, my name is Steve Pearl. I'm sure I've met some of you, perhaps not all of you, but I've been with Yaskawa for going on 14 years. And we're here today to talk about the expansion of the GA800, which currently goes up to 600 horsepower. And we are now expanded to 1,000 horsepower. This is the list of topics we are going to cover. You may have noticed that an announcement was sent out a few weeks ago, so I just wanted to highlight that to you in case you've not had a chance to look at it or absorb it. Just the fact that there was an announcement. Wanted to familiarize yourself with the product itself, the new product offering. Talk a little bit about all the sales and support collateral that supports this new expansion. Also, what the pricing looks like, the lead time, what we would like you to do with this new offering, and then in addition to this new offering to 1,000 horsepower, what other plans do we have for the GA800 product line? And then we will end, everyone, by the way, is muted. We will end with, during this call, but at the end, we will handle questions and answers via the question interface on this webinar app. So as I mentioned, all participants are currently muted, and you'll be able to submit your written questions via the GoTo interface. And then also for people that may have missed this webinar, there will be a recording of it, and that will be emailed to everyone that registered or everyone that was invited, actually. And so those people will be able to listen and view the webinar once this is all completed. This should take us 30 to 45 minutes, and then we'll have some questions, and we should easily be able to finish within our allotted time. So first of all, as I mentioned, hopefully a number of you noticed that on Tuesday, July 30th, we sent this announcement. And in red there, what you see is the main three topics, or the main three things that we wanted to talk about in the announcement, which is our new GA800 frame 12 drive. That's the standard drive that takes us up to 1,000 horsepower. Currently, we end at 600 horsepower with the GA800, or we did, I should say. And now we have expanded that to 1,000 horsepower. The second main item in the announcement is configured packages to go along with the standard drives, otherwise known as cubes. And those are available in types 112 and 3R. And then also, in addition to this new offering, we've taken a look at our existing configured offering, and we felt it was appropriate to do a size reduction. So it's sort of unrelated to the new 700 to 1,000 horsepower offering. But we decided along with this, we would do a size reduction of some existing packages up to 600 horsepower, specifically in that 400 to 600 horsepower range. So this is, if you look at that announcement, you know, there's a lot of information in there with links. So you can easily go back to that announcement again, look in your email from Tuesday, July 30th, and you'll see that announcement. And there's a lot of great material for you to access. All right. So first of all, let's talk about this new frame 12 drive, which now makes the 480 volt range of the G800 equivalent to the A1000. That takes us beyond 600 horsepower up to 1,000 horsepower. And it's really a very nice thing in the fact that we've made it a lot smaller than the A1000 drive. It's actually 39% smaller in width. The height is actually the same, but it is 39% smaller in width. And along with that is is a weight reduction, also significantly lighter than the A1000. And similar to the A1000, when we get to this large of a drive, 700 to 1,000 horsepower again, and we call it frame 12. Unlike the smaller frames where we have special models for 6 pulse or 12 pulse, this model, just like the A1000 frame 15, otherwise known as jumbo, it is configurable for either 6 pulse or 12 pulse input. So there's no special model required for that capability. Additionally, another thing that's different about this particular frame is it has the right kind of components in it, such that in order to get Type 12 backside capability, all you have to do is add a kit to it, which is essentially brackets and gaskets, and we'll go over that in a little bit more detail. So that's a nice feature compared to the smaller frames, is just buy the standard drive and add a kit to it to get that capability. And then also the G800, this new G800 frame 12 shares the same control board and firmware as all other G800 ratings. So same firmware, same control board, all the way from 1 through 1,000 horsepower. It's a very nice thing. We also noticed down there in the table is that the ratings, there's essentially 4 model numbers that take you from 700 to 1,000 horsepower. And that's another thing that's a little bit different than the A1000, where in the case of the A1000, we had a model 930 and a model 1200. And for 700 horsepower and 900 horsepower applications, that's what you had to use. Now we actually have 4 models instead of 2 models. So those are additional price points. Okay. A little bit more detail on the actual physical size. As I mentioned before, we're 39% smaller in width, which equates to over 19 inches more narrow. And also the height, as I mentioned, was the same. There's a little bit of a penalty there in the fact that it's a little bit deeper, but not very significant. It's less than 3 inches deeper than our existing A1000. So I think most people would agree that having a product that's much narrower is worth that small penalty. And as I mentioned, it's much, much lighter, whereas you can see the A1000 came in at over 1,200 pounds, and the G800 of this horsepower rating comes in a little over 800 pounds. So a huge, huge reduction in the weight also. And as I mentioned before, this new capability of this new frame 12 to be able to do a heat sink out the back with a Type 12 rating, that is, only requires the addition of a kit. And so that you'll see the part number for this kit, and that's not something you necessarily have to write down. That's also in our launch material. But as you can see there, it consists of some brackets and gaskets and hardware. If you're familiar with the standard heat sink through the back mounting, this can be done even without this kit. The only difference is that you would not get a Type 12 backside seal. So the way that's done today, not only on frame 12, but also on other frames, is to just reposition the standard top and bottom brackets. So that's not even part of this kit, right? You can do heat sink external even without this kit. But to get a dust tight seal or a Type 12 seal is where, with the kit now, you would add these brackets, these side brackets, to not only the top and bottom brackets that are standard, but the addition of these side brackets that are part of the kit. And then there's also gaskets that go along with that to make the physical seal between your panel and the drive. And of course, there's hardware to go along with that. So hopefully that's pretty clear. Again, heat sink through the back is possible even without this kit, but a dust tight seal or a Type 12 seal is where this kit is required. Next, I want to talk about we talked about packages to go along with these new drives. So we've also designed brand new packages, types 1, 12, and 3R. First, we're going to talk about the type 1 and 12 package. And this is a brand new package that takes advantage of the much narrower drive itself. So we've been able to squeeze essentially 1,000 horsepower worth of power into this narrow package. Much narrow. It's a single door enclosure. If you're familiar with our existing solution on an A1000, it's an extra wide 2-door enclosure. Now we're in a single door enclosure up to 1,000 horsepower. So fairly impressive. And we've been able to take advantage of this new narrow drive. There are a few limitations. One is that it's, as far as power options go, it's only available either with or without a disconnect switch, not a circuit breaker. But it does include fusing as standard. So every one of these cabinets, whether a customer would order it with or without a disconnect, would always have input semiconductor fusing. Okay. And it's also available with all the traditional control options because obviously those don't take up much space or generate much heat. So you can think of it as this new package in types 1 and 12 will accommodate everything except for large heat producing options. Okay, so we hope you'll be able to have some success with that. For customers that need more, something like resistors, or they really want a circuit breaker instead of a disconnect, or perhaps dynamic braking or other things, we have done some pre-engineering work already to supply a larger cabinet, more of a traditional 2-door style that will accommodate all those other options. So we are not limited to this as a solution. You can request a custom engineered quote for something that has those other power options. Okay, so taking a look at just a physical size comparison, you can see what we had in the past for the A1000 type 1 and 12 cabinets. And as I mentioned before, that was an extra wide enclosure coming in at almost 82 inches, whereas this new cabinet is, although it's taller, it's only a little less than 38 inches. So a huge reduction in width, over 50%, more than 50% less wide, and about 14% more tall, about 12 inches. Okay, and one thing I wanted to point out as far as another limitation of this package style is that because it's so dense and the way we're moving air inside the cabinet, it does not really accommodate, I shouldn't say really, but it doesn't accommodate top entry or exit, but it does accommodate bottom entry and exit for the power cables, which is the preferred location. I think that's going to be best inside of the cabinet, but it also accommodates side entry. And we have on our brand new DD drawings that support this new product, we have some suggested areas for where to bring power cables in and out. So it can be either bottom or side entry. I also wanted to show you what our competitors offer in this style of a package. So as you can see, there's our new F1 tall, as we call it, package for type 1 and 12. And here is Rockwell solution, and I'm going to show you another slide on that Rockwell, but that solution there covers only up to 800 horse. It does not cover 1,000 horse. To do more than 800 horsepower, it's actually 2 of those modules stacked side by side in those MCC style cabinets. And what you'll notice is on the top there that it also has an exhaust up on the top, which actually would prevent you from doing top entry on that package as well. And then we've got ABB with their solution. Again, you can see there's a top exhaust that also prevents top entry and exit. And then the same with Schneider. You'll also notice if you look at the Iskawa package way on the left that we have a disconnect that's way on the lower left, which you might consider to be a little bit of an odd place for it. But to get this package in something that's so dense and to provide access to the front of the drive with the cabinet open, it's really the only place that our disconnect could go. And why does it not accommodate a circuit breaker? And that is because a circuit breaker is like a big molded case switch, much larger when you get to this power rating than a disconnect. So there just physically was not room for a circuit breaker in this package, only a disconnect. But as you can see, we're pretty competitive. We probably look most like the Schneider in terms of the location of the disconnect. ABB's disconnect is a little bit higher, probably a little bit more practical for a customer, but again, we're not the only ones with a rotary disconnect through the front and in a somewhat low position. I'd like to show you a little bit more on the Rockwell solution. As you can see there, this happens to be an example with their optional wiring bay, which in order to get anything besides the drive itself, it requires an additional wiring bay. And you can see on the left there with the wiring bay closed, what it looks like. And on the right, you can see what it looks like with the wiring bay open and with the power module out of the cabinet. There's a bunch of bus bars running back there. And again, this would only accommodate 800 horsepower. To get more than that would require an additional drive module. And as you can see, power wiring would appear to be only bottom entry on this package as well. So I just wanted to let you know what the competition looks like for these new packages to show you that we are truly competitive, realizing that top entry and exit might be a little bit popular, but of course as I mentioned before, we do have a solution for something besides the bottom entry, and that would be to a custom engineered order, which we've already done some work for. That would give you more flexible power and entry exit capability, including through the top. So this style package will provide that to you. But again, it won't be a standard catalog number. It'll be a custom engineered solution, not only providing the ability for different cable access, but also some of your traditional power options, such as circuit breaker instead of a disconnect, reactors, dynamic brake modules, and other things. Right? So we do have that capability, and we are ready to quote orders for if that's what your requirements are. Again, so far we've only been talking about the Type 1 and 12 solutions. Now I'll move on to the Type 3R solution that we have all pre-engineered. When it comes to Type 3R, we're not as concerned because these are outdoor, so we're not as concerned with power density. And we support quite a bit more when more of the traditional options that you would have in Type 3R. And for all of these new large drives packages, that is, whether it's Type 1, 12, and 3R, input fusing is always included. So consider the Type 3R, the standard 3R offering that we've come out with now to be everything you've been able to enjoy that you have in the past, but slightly smaller. So what you may not have realized in the past is we've always had two different two-door enclosures, one that's a little bit wider than the other. And because the drive, or as we call it, the cube, this new cube, GA800 cube, is so much smaller, of course, we were able to go to the smaller of our two-door enclosures and that is almost a 20% reduction in width. Not real important for outdoor applications, but it is worth mentioning. Okay, that covers the 700 to 1,000 horsepower product details. Now I wanted to mention what I did earlier in the fact that we've done some things with our smaller power ratings as well. So what was previously in a two-door package, which was 400 to 600 horsepower normal duty, 350 to 500 horsepower heavy duty, we've now reduced the physical size of those to a single, from a two-door down to a single door. And of course, it's a good thing that we're doing this at the same time, because we wouldn't want to have a 1,000 horsepower package that's smaller than a 500 horsepower package, for example. Okay, and this supports nearly all the existing configure options in the 400 to 600 horsepower range, except for dynamic braking, which is actually rarely ordered for this power size anyways. And we will continue to take orders for those, but they will go into a larger cabinet, a two-door instead of a single door. So for nearly all applications, this is now size reduced from a two-door to a single door. Again, this is the 400 to 600 horsepower range. So hopefully you'll be able to take advantage of that nice new smaller package in this power range as well. And then along with that, we are consolidating some of the things that we're doing in our manufacturing facility. And we do have some new single door enclosures that are somewhat transparent to you, but that we're using on some of our new product lines, such as FP605, and we will be using the same sheet metal. So there is a very, very slight change in dimensions for this power range. For the 480 volt, we're talking 150 through 350 horsepower. So it basically looks the same with a very minor difference in physical size. So that's just something to be aware of. Let's talk a little bit about pricing. So we've got these, as I mentioned, new intermediate models, and that's actually going to remove some price pressure of the 800 and 1,000 horsepower models. So today, if you look at the dotted line there for the A1000, we're really using the same product from 600 horsepower heavy duty all the way up to 800 horsepower normal duty. And then also for 900 and 1,000 horsepower on the A1000, we're using the same product for those two applications. So now that we have 4 models to sell and 4 different price points, we are able to sort of right-size the pricing for 800 and 1,000 horsepower. So you would naturally ask me, why are we pricing it, the 800 horsepower and the 1,000 horsepower higher than the A1000? And that's because that product has really been priced too low in the marketplace at those horsepowers for quite some time. But we had no choice because it was a single product across that power range. So what we're doing with the GA800 is the 700 and 900 horsepower will be approximately the same as what you've always enjoyed, but the 800 and 1,000 horsepower will be market priced. Yes, more expensive, but it will be market priced close to ABB. You can see is the competitive price point that we're showing there. And we're also showing Rockwell in the black to show where their price points are. And we all know that Rockwell is priced highest in the marketplace, so that we certainly would never expect to price it that high, but it is just a data point to show you where we are relative to them. And what we will be doing in the near future is making adjustments to the 1,000 series pricing in general, including especially the 800 and 1,000 horsepower A1000 drive will go up in price to meet or exceed this new pricing. And so we believe with these changes that we've made that the price is right for the marketplace. And having these new models allows us to have the right price, market level based pricing. Okay, next I'd like to talk about some updated material that we have for the G800. So we, whenever we do a product line expansion, it affects a lot of our materials, things like price books, sales presentation, web pages, selection guides, software tools. I'll mention software tools. We're talking about all of the software tools, including Quote Wizard and Drive Wizard Industrial. All of that has been updated to support these new ratings. So you can see all the pieces of literature and support collateral that have been updated. We also have updates to competitive comparisons. Also technical reference manuals, dimension drawings, schematic drawings. I would encourage you to go to the G800 webpage and look at the updated material, download it if you've got things downloaded, maybe download new copies. You have fresh copies that now supports the new frame 12. There's nothing specifically for frame 12, it's just included with all the other frames, other than DD drawings, of course. Let's talk about a little bit about lead time. So for the standard drives, or otherwise known as the cubes, on the top line there, we're presently at stock to 4 weeks, and by this fall we expect it to be at stock to 2 weeks. For the new narrow Type 1 and 12 configured packages, we're finishing up a few details in the project, and our initial lead time right now is 16 weeks on those, but we do expect to be in a position by this fall to be as low as 4 weeks and with a maximum of 12 weeks, depending upon the order rate on this new F1 tall Type 1 and 12 package. So we do intend to keep some cabinets on hand, but if we get a sporadic orders that might deplete our inventory of cabinets, it might take a little longer. Again, as low as 4 weeks, as long as 12 weeks by this fall. And then for the Type 3R, brand new Type 3R packages, 12 weeks. And for the size reduced Type 1 and 12 packages, we'd currently be at 12 weeks, and that will over time be at 4 weeks. That's the 4 to 600 horsepower size reduced Type 1 and 12. So what would we like you to do? We'd like you to take advantage of these new high-powered drives and packages with this new world-class physical size, and consider targeting accounts where large power physical size has been a sales barrier. And also, we'd like you to lead with the G800 for every new general and high-performance sale. Our assumption is that you're already doing that versus the A1000, but now, especially with the addition of the large power drives and packages, we hopefully you are very well armed to always lead with the G800 versus the A1000. As far as future plans for the product line, for the G800 product line, one thing that is not yet completed is the 600 volt. While some of you, especially that have a Canadian focus, are aware that we have 300 to 500 horsepower has been available for a few years already. The smaller ratings are not yet available. So our schedule to roll that out is by the fourth quarter of this calendar year, we expect to release 125 through 250 horsepower. And along with that, we are going to have some new fuse-ready Type 1 kits for frames 7 through 9, and I'll talk a little bit more about those fuse-ready Type 1 kits. So if you're not familiar with those, bear with me a minute on those. This complements the existing frame 10 and 11 kits that we already have. So for mounting drives directly on a wall versus in a cabinet, customers don't know always where to go with their fusing to protect those drives. And these kits provide a very practical and convenient place to mount fusing instead of going elsewhere with fusing. And then in 2025, we expect to have the remainder of our 600 volt product line all the way down to 1 horsepower sometime in 2025. It'll be mid-year or later of 2025. And then along with that, we will have the fuse-ready kits, much like you see on the right-hand side there, available all the way down to frame 1. And then in 2026, we expect to have network-based functional safety. So today, our only solution for functional safety is safe torque off through hardwired inputs. But in 2026, our plan is to be able to release a network Ethernet-based functional safety, the Ethernet-based safe torque off in 2026. And then with regards to other product lines for 700 through 1000 horsepower, such as FP605, we don't yet have a schedule. Our plan is to release those eventually, but we don't yet have a schedule we can share with you, but they are planned. Okay, and with that said, that really covers all the information that we wanted to present to you and make sure you're aware of. And I'm going to pull out the question panel here, and we'll go over the questions that are out there. Yeah, so from Anthony, I see for external heatsink kits, does Yaskawa plan on making adapters to allow F7 or A1000 holes to work for the G800 or FP, etc.? Anthony, there are no plans at this point in time for adapters to go from F7. Are we talking about just this frame, Anthony? I'm not sure, but no, there are no plans to make kits for the external heatsink for converting from F7 or A1000 to G800. There are no plans for that. And then Anthony, you also asked, when are you going to offer the G800 in smaller sizes? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, but all the smaller sizes of the G800 are already available. Also, Anthony is asking about IQ1000 replacement. We don't have an exact schedule on that yet, but we are, I believe that's looking like towards possibly end of 2025 is my understanding for that, Anthony. The next one is from Juan. Juan is asking, do these new drives have the same topology as the A1000 jumbo drive? And Juan, you're saying, what you're meaning by that is, do the drives, are they essentially two drives in parallel? And the answer to that is a very good question, Juan. The answer to that is no, this is not two drives in parallel. And that is why we are able to use the same control board and firmware from 1 through 1000 horsepower. So it definitely, it would look much more conventional if you were to lift the cover off of this new frame 12. It would look much more like all the smaller frames, and it is definitely not two drives running in parallel. Okay, there's something about I think we answered all the 600 volt stuff. The next one is, will there be a side mounted cabinet for top entry? So my assumption is that you're talking about that new F1 tall package that I just mentioned. For top entry, that there won't be an accessory side package. As I mentioned, to really do top entry on that new F1 tall, it would no longer be the F1 tall. It would be a custom engineered order for a 2-door enclosure, a more traditional enclosure. That'll be our solution. What we have done some amount of engineering on that solution already, and so it won't be something that takes us a long time to do if that's what you want, but we will have to quote it. All good questions. Okay, I don't see any more questions rolling in. I'm always available. Anybody that wants to send me a direct email with additional questions relative to this topic or anything about the G800 or A1000, my email is Steve_Perrault. That's spelled PERREAULT @yaskawa.com. And as I mentioned, we will actually be, we will have a recording of this webinar for those that you can refer back to or let people know that we're unable to attend, and they can listen to the recording. Okay, thanks very much for everyone's attention, and everyone please have a great day and a great week.